from, it's based on the modern day isolation. I hope you all have good takeaways from this session. So I'll just start the session. So today's topic is building meaningful connections, isolation to interaction. All the words, all these 5 words are very powerful because it means, it gives different meanings to every individual. So meaningful connections. So even social media is a connection. So what is the definition we give for meaningful connection is what we are looking at today. And what is the meaning we give for isolation and interaction? Because we all think, right? Because even on social media, we are connecting with people, we are interacting. So what is the subtle difference? How is there a hint of isolation in social media interaction? This is what we are going to explore today. So the topics in a gist, the recap for the session, we'll be exploring these topics: modern isolation, emotional influence, science behind emotions, small talk to soul talk, emotional numbness, building emotional safety in conversations, and call to action to reconnect. What are everyday practices possible? So after I finish this session, we will have a Q&A session. So if you have any queries, I'm more than willing to answer those. So all these topics can be classified into just 3 categories as to why, what, and how. So why? Why are we even exploring modern day isolation and emotional numbness? And what is the science behind emotions? How is it very different? Because we are very happy, we are laughing, we are commenting, we are expressing, even in social media, we are doing all these things. So how is it different? What is the science behind emotions? And how does emotional influence matter? And of course, then we have to always end with call to action. So how? How do we connect? Small talk to soul talk, emotional safety, and everyday practices. So the first one is modern day isolation and emotional numbness. Why is it important to build meaningful connections? Let's have a look at these pictures. If we look closely at the pictures, what stands out is the facial expression, okay, and a connectivity. There is an eye contact. There is a touch. There is a close physical proximity, okay, and the expressions that are coming from it, whether it is sadness or being in a happy state, there is a human connect in this. Okay. So real human connections give multiple sensory inputs to brain, okay, which shapes our thoughts, feelings, emotions, and actions. I'll just give a quick example, okay. The picture which we saw wherein we are sitting and talking to somebody. So the communication is always based on what the other person's body language is, even how close we are sitting, okay, and whether it is a monosyllable reply or is the person very silent. Based on that, our emotions, our feelings, our actions follow. Whereas if you're with a gadget, it's all about I, right? Okay, so I watch something. If I like this, I continue. If I don't like this, I just scroll it. So there is no connectivity to the other opposite person. There is a connectivity based on what I like, what I don't like. Too much of I is coming over there. And so real human connections always balances the I and we. And empathy and joy is felt, not just expressed in words. Okay? or close friend or any close family member or anybody, office colleague, is looking at us and saying, yeah, good job. Versus we get an emoticon saying, okay, a thumbs up. The feeling is same, but which stays longer? What stays with us for a longer time? The real human expression stays with us for a longer time. So that is one small yet very powerful difference. So now with this picture, again, I'm just trying to reinforce what I said. There is connectivity, but connectivity with what? Connectivity with whom? Two people sitting close to each other. They are not connected, but they are connected with a set of people who are not even probably in different parts of the world, right? So this is what happens when too much of social media interference is there, the modern day isolation, right? So this is the stark difference. The smile is there, the expression is there, we do comment, right? Okay, in social media as well, we do comment. But without realizing, we are kind of gluing more towards I. There is no we. So it's all about I. I watch what I like. I hear what I like. I comment what I think. Am I seen? Am I noticed? It's all I. So it's a very unconscious shift. Okay. Okay, so what is wrong in that? Fine, it's all about I am happy. I'm not doing any harm to anybody. It's a good thing. It's constructive time. There are so many good things which happen. We learn, all that said and done. But in all this, what happens is this isolation is happening because we are disconnecting from people. And all human beings are born social animals. We feel really good or we have actual feelings only when we connect to people. So that isolation should never happen. And what is emotional numbness? How is emotional numbness coming in all this? Let's think about it, right? 10 years back, 15 years back, we are traveling, okay? Maybe for an hour. There was no mobile, there was no TVs on the car seat also. That 1 hour, maybe we are bored, we sleep, we talk to our co-passenger, but there was no escapism over there, okay? Now what happens, even 1 minute of boredom kind of takes us, okay, I cannot be bored even for a minute. So let me let me just do something. So it starts with kind of not getting bored or being to ourselves. But then what happens is even when something's happen around us, we don't react too much to that. Because we see so many things, so many things, so many things on social media, somewhere we get socially insensitive, socially unaware. That is emotional numbness. Somebody close to us, or maybe sitting in the bus, maybe going through a pain, our co-passenger, but we may not realize it because we are on our screen. We fail to notice certain things. So that is something which we can always work on. A balance can always be found out. So emotional numbness happen over there because the moment we have an unpleasant feeling, we escape. Okay? We try to move away from it rather than face it, go through that. So that is why it is very important. Okay, why we discussed this. Now we are going to the most important part as to what leads to emotional disconnect. Okay. So here I would just like to share one very small example. Okay, when see kids come to me for all kinds of behavioral, not even behavioral problems, behavioral discipline also. They cannot sit in one place. They're not writing neatly. Something out of the syllabus from school. So one thing over the period of last 10 years, what I understood was lots of children come to me because their handwriting is not good. They cannot hold the pencil. So the answer is they are so used to gadgets, their touch has become very soft. Okay, because the mobile or anything, we need to touch it softly. Okay, so now to hold a pencil, you need to, the strength has to be there. So children are actually, most of the children, they are losing out that strength on their fingertips. And we have all the nerve endings, lots of nerve endings on our feet and on our fingertips. So very small thing, but there are things happening within our body, within our brain. Okay. So that is how it is always good to know the science behind it. So I just tell the parents, okay, the practice and lessen the screen time, because this is the reason. Like they need to have, they should not always be touching things softly like that. So we'll just go through the science behind emotions. Just like to see this. The reason why I showed this particular clip is it's so beautifully it comes out. Okay. How that one touch from the father changed the emotions within that son. And afterwards, if you all had noticed, the whole family connected. The mother started, like, the mother was holding the father's hand, and the younger son also. They all just connected. It just one, one touch on the shoulder. So human connections have a very huge impact. Okay, so that is the reason why I showed this. And that is how, so where do the emotions come from? Okay, one touch triggered the emotion in the son. And the son's tears triggered another emotion in the father. Again, the father and son's emotions triggered another emotion in the mother. See, emotional influence. This is emotional influence. Yeah, so emotional influence is the connect, the sharing, the warmth, the touch, the tears, the smile, the pat on the shoulders. That comes from connections. And here, if we again try to analyze it very deeply, a very beautiful concept that happens for all of us is mirror neurons. Before I explain on that, just think about it. If somebody is teaching us dance, how do we repeat the steps? Okay, this dance teacher instructor is showing a step and we repeat it. How is it possible? Because the brain is mirroring. We have certain neurons in our brain which does the work of mirroring. So we automatically we don't think, okay, I have to move my right, left. No, we just copy it. Okay. The same way we do it in so many other areas. Empathy comes because of mirror neurons. If somebody's feeling sad, they're explaining something, they're sharing something, we feel the same level of sadness. Why? Because our brain is mirroring their feelings. Again, this happens very deeply with real human connections or real connections. When we have a pet, also the same thing. So mirror neurons help us in a number of ways. So when we understand, so again, if you are watching a horror movie, right? It's not about mirror neurons, but related to that. So when we watch a horror movie, we know in our, like, we know this is not real. It's fiction. But still we feel that scary part. Why? Because for our brain, everything is real. Whatever it sees, whatever it hears, all sensory inputs, that's it. The brain does not distinguish between real and not real. Okay. So whatever is being shown on the screen, our mirror neurons, because of our mirror neurons, we also feel the same way, we also get the same expressions. So this is working within each one of us. Our mirror neurons are working. It's a very, very elaborate topic. So I'm just doing it very concisely, just touching the points so that we become more aware. Start giving a thought to this. Okay. So where do the emotions come from? Another quick example. Our child does something, or some very close family member does something really bad. We feel hurt, we feel very bad. The same thing our neighbor does. Do we feel the same way? It is the same situation, same action, but we feel different. How? How is the difference coming? Because the way we interpret it. When it is with our own family member, or that my comes over there, my husband, my wife, my child, my parents, okay, that, so there is an sense of ownership, togetherness. So over there, the emotions change. So our emotions come from not just one place, okay? Brain, thoughts, feelings, memory, environment, all put together in a macro second. Emotions are there. Our brain is a super computer. Okay. So emotions come from all of this. The hero for the emotion is brain. So whatever sensory inputs, okay, it collects everything and the brain is giving it back. The brain is not making any decision. If, for example, again in an example, okay, a newborn child, when it cries, it gets milk. The brain stores everything, okay, crying, the image of the mother coming, the mother's touch, everything is stored in the brain, okay, and the mother gives milk. So it is not making an assumption, it is just storing everything in the brain as cause and effect. Crying, okay, milk is available. So the next time I want milk, I will cry, because the brain just gives it back. It is like how we do Google search. Our thought is what we are typing in Google search. Based on our thought, our brain will retrieve information and tells us, okay, this is what you did last time. This is what you have to do. We'll automatically do that. So our sensory inputs are very, very important, because our brain is a super computer. It analyzes all the data and gives quick suggestions in the form of reactions, answers, emotions, etc. Okay. Somebody questions us, immediate, whether I talk loudly or I just keep quiet, depending on the person, it differs. How do we do that? Memory bank. The brain has stored all the information. In that macro second, it will retrieve it. This is what you did last time. It is not telling us, we'll just repeat it, because we work on repetitions. Okay, why am I telling all this? Reason is, let us start thinking about balanced diet. We all know balanced diet physically. Okay, carbohydrates, proteins, minerals, micronutrients. We need all the balanced diet, starch, everything. Do we also give balanced diet to our brain? Our brain also needs balanced diet. All the neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers, serotonin, dopamine, melatonin, cortisol, oxytocin, all these things are produced by our brain based on all the thoughts that cross our mind. Okay. And there has to be a balance in these as well. If we have the right amount of serotonin, we produce the right amount of melatonin, which helps us to sleep. Right amount of cortisol helps us to stay alert. Too much of cortisol is not good. So the right amount of cortisol is required. Why do we feel happy? Because either there is a dopamine or serotonin. Why do we feel loved? Because the brain is releasing oxytocin. How does the brain release oxytocin? Because there is a touch. It's some sensory input. Based on that, there is interpretation happening and the neurotransmitter is released. We feel all the emotions, all our feelings happen because the brain is releasing neurotransmitters corresponding to those feelings. So we feel due to the chemical messengers. Our thoughts trigger feelings and our feelings can trigger thoughts. It's a vicious circle. Let us just take another example. Okay. We are chased by a stray dog and like I'm very scared of dogs. So if looking at the stray dog, the thought that comes to my mind is, oh my God, what do I do now? The brain interprets it as freeze, right? It's either fight, flight, or freeze. Based on my thought, the brain analyzes it as freeze. So accordingly, that neurotransmitter is released, which will kind of freeze my action. Like, my body will not move. Or if my thought is, how do I escape? Okay, where do I run to? Fact, the brain again, okay, the brain is in action. So it releases cortisol and that cortisol is released to our legs. That is why, if we really think about it, if a stray dog chases me, like I can run for miles at a very high speed, which I cannot normally do it in normal circumstances. Why? Because I have extra energy in my legs. So based on our thoughts, the neurotransmitters are released. It is released to the corresponding parts of our body. That's how that synchronization happens very nicely. That is how we all work. That is how we all exist. So just to give you a quick example, there are lots of neurotransmitters. I've just taken some examples. Okay, oxytocin. Okay, the mother's love, or when there is a family bonding. Okay, everybody is sitting together. We feel a sense of belongingness. Why? Because at that moment, okay, depending upon our thoughts and all that, oxytocin is released. And that oxytocin help us feel that way. So the thoughts releases the transmitters and we feel it. Okay? The mother and child special bonding. How? Oxytocin is released. So why do we always say, like, family time together, when everybody is sitting, looking at each other, talking to each other, okay, sharing, because that is when wow, I'm in a safe environment, I'm in a very happy environment. We do think, and that releases oxytocin and that strengthens the bond. Okay. Dopamine is the reward and achievement. Even if we win a lemon and spoon race, there is a 1 minute feeling, right? I did it. The moment we say, I did it, how do we feel it? Dopamine is released. The moment we achieve something, dopamine is released. So we need to achieve. We have to do things wherein, that is why to-do list, like, I will drink 8 glasses of water. I will exercise today and I'm marking it. Okay. I have a journal. I'm marking it. So end of 10 days, there is a feel good factor. Oh, last 10 days, I've done this. Dopamine is released. When dopamine is released, that feeling is very addictive. So again, we'll repeat that action. So this is how our emotions are helping us. Serotonin. Again, dopamine is reward. When you get the reward, serotonin is when you do that act, when you do social service, when you help somebody. It is very different from the sense of belongingness. It is something, it's a different feeling, right? A sense of connectivity, a sense of kind of helping somebody. Serotonin. So it gives us a sense of calm, peace. Why? Because serotonin is released. We do get all this from food also, but even actions are very important. Cortisol is the stress one. Okay, deadlines, okay, target, and this, like, when all these things, when we think, okay, there is too much to do, why is cortisol released? So that we remain alert. The task has to be finished. But too much cortisol is not good for health. It has to be in moderation. Okay, cortisol and adrenaline. So fear. Okay, fear is also not good. Fear is good for survival, but just getting scared of everything will not help us. So we have to give a balanced diet for our brain. So, and that too, we have to give real experiences. So the question comes, fine, like, even from other things, what I see, I'm learning, I'm seeing, what to say, a very comedy clip on the mobile. But there is a difference. There is a difference when you're laughing, sitting close to a friend or colleague with versus when we see something hilarious on the screen. It is, I'm not saying it's not required. I'm saying that is required. This is also required. Real life is also required. Virtual and real has to be balanced. In fact, real can be more. So we must remember our brain works on repeated inputs. Probably you can type, just think what we surf on our mobile, okay? Based on the algorithms, we do get videos which are related to that. And we don't realize because already the algorithm has calculated, what takes our attention, because there is how long we see a video, how frequently we see it. Based on that, it is giving us. And we see more and more and more of it. And without realizing, our thought patterns also change. We started believing, okay, this is it. We start having our own belief systems. This is what is happening without us really, really knowing it. Okay, our thought, our belief system, so many things are changing. So we must remember this, that the brain is storing everything. So from here, I'm going on to, all right, okay, now we know emotions come from this. Connect is required. Real life connection is very much required because there is emotional influence is required, right? We need all the good neurotransmitters for a balanced brain diet. And that comes from real human connections and real human people to people connect. So how do we move from isolation to interaction? Okay. Small talk to soul talk, emotional safety in conversations, and everyday practices. Here, okay. Active listening. A very socially very accepted word this is. But active listening needs tremendous practice. Because when somebody is talking to us, right, there are so many filters happening. Either we are just thinking, okay, I don't think this is right, or I would have done this in a different way. Most of the time, okay, end of it, if I have to reply, what reply should I give? So many things go through our mind when we are listening, when somebody is talking and we are listening. So how do we practice active listening is consciously, every time the thought comes, we just look at the person. We just make sure that we hear every word. Even if we don't understand, we don't reply in the end, it is fine. We can always ask, can you just tell that again? Okay, active listening. And when you are doing active listening, no multitasking. Okay, working on the computer and somebody is talking to us, that is two things at a time. That is not active listening. Okay, or we are doing some, normally we do some things together. So active listening is just listening. If we don't have the time, we can always say that. But active listening. Pause and respond. Now, why do we pause? Okay. When we pause, our reaction comes from prefrontal cortex. When we immediately react or say something, it is coming from a different part of the brain based on our memory bank. Somebody tells us this is what you do. How are you? I'm fine. How are you? We don't think, right? We just give the reply. So 90% of the time, or rather 95% of the time, we are on autopilot mode. The moment we hear something, we say something back. The pause, what would happen is when we pause, the information comes from the prefrontal cortex of the brain. So we will respond in a better way because we are pausing. And what is pause? Very simple. Either we count till 5 or we do a deep breath, inhale for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4. That is pause. It's hardly less than a second. That is enough. The brain is wired in a different way then. Okay. And response pattern. Now, when we do these response pattern and communication, we are helping ourselves. Okay. When we pause, what happens? The message we are giving our brain is all is well. I'm breathing normally. Nothing everything is fine. So we are relaxed. So the brain is not in an alert mode and is not going to produce any cortisol. All is well. And now in the response pattern, again, we are buying time. I heard you say whatever the other person is saying, because after active listening, we are saying, I heard you say. So we are repeating it for ourselves. Okay, this is what the person said. Then comes our whatever I think, I feel. It's always about the again other person. How can I help you? What is the outcome you want? So these are very powerful words which help us and the person we are communicating to. Now, how is it connected to our topic for today? Because this is interaction. When we start interactions like this, automatically isolation comes down. Because in real human connect, we are responding, right? So there is give and take over here. So communication is where we start to build. So I told before, right? The brain works on repetitions. If the brain has stored, if everything is about social media, whatever we screen time, we are seeing less of human interactions. That is what we would want to do always, because that is what the brain has interpreted it as. This is what I like. So now we are giving different interactions in a meaningful way. So this is the mode which would help us to connect to ourselves and improve interactions. What is the outcome you want is a very strong and very powerful way of communication, because that shifts the mode. What does the person want? It goes to the focus goes to the action. And talk about the situation, not the person. Any situation. Okay. It's about I can give my own example. My kids are doing some kind of common example. The room is never ever clean. Okay. They are young adults, but still the room is always messy. First reaction as I see the room would be normally oh my God, why can't you keep this room clean? It's about the person, right? But now with practice, with mindfulness practice, what happens? Messy room really puts me off. So it's about the messy room. So this is the difference. Whenever we communicate, it should be about the situation, not the person. Again, that helps us to connect more. And how do we do that? Simple logic. There can be more than one right. What I think is right, what the opposite person thinking could be right. So the two rights can coexist. This approach can help us communicate in a better way. And okay, all theory, fine. We understood everything is from sensory inputs, what the brain sees, what brain stores, and our reactions, responses, everything is based on that memory bank. Okay. So we have to consciously make sure that we connect with people, we do things wherein in a very balanced manner. Okay. How do we do that? Even the emotional safety in conversations is what we discussed, right? With what I just mentioned to you. Accepting that there is more than one right, and how can I help you? This is all emotional safety in conversation. There is a huge difference between I understand and I heard. I heard is emotional safety. When you say I understand, maybe we really don't understand how much that other person is feeling. We understand they are feeling. But when we say I heard, it's totally different. That is emotional safety. Because we are not making a we are not making the other person go into an emotional turmoil, not for ourselves also. So emotional safety in conversations. And how do we practice it? So there are informal mindfulness practices. When we do informal mindfulness practices, we are giving pause to our brain. Whatever routine we have, okay? We are not talking about doing things like, maybe the screen time is not right or nothing. Everything is right for in one way or the other. We're talking about balancing. Informal mindfulness practices is if we are going for a walk. Let's say we are going for evening walk, morning walk. Ideally, even listening to music is multitasking. If we walk just like that, so we observe things in the environment, we hear more sounds, we get more smells, okay? We look around us because none of us can walk just, heads down and not looking at anything. We don't do that. But whereas if we are listening to something on our phone with earphones on, it is not that we don't hear anything, we don't see also much of the things. That is multitasking. So informal mindfulness practice is doing one thing at a time. If at all we are watching something on the mobile, just do that. Not like, by eating and watching mobile is 2 tasks at a time. 1 task at a time. And if you're taking a bath, most of the time, like even now I have stopped, we plan the to-do list of the day while taking a bath. I've heard so many people say I get great ideas when I'm in the bathroom. Mindfulness practice. Have you ever realized, okay, how is the water warm, cold? How is the water? Is it soft, hard? How does it touch my skin? That is mindfulness practice. When we are taking a bath, we are taking a bath. When we are cooking, we are only cooking. When we are doing office work, we are doing only office work. When we are listening, we are only listening. One task at a time. And conscious allocation of unofficial screen time. Underline the word unofficial. Official screen time has to be done. Even if we are watching some series or some talk shows, it is best if we can allocate a time for that. Only from this time to this time will be my unofficial screen time, because that will make it less addictive. So that is another way we can practice this, how not to get into the modern isolation mode. Conscious allocation of unofficial screen time and conscious allocation of time with people. Like the same example, okay, go for a morning walk. Even if I don't talk, I'm connecting with people. If I'm not listening to music, if I'm not doing anything else, I'm connecting with people. So there has to be conscious allocation of time with people, because the brain has to get sensory inputs from there also. That has to be a conscious allocation. And no multitasking. Multitasking is a myth, because our brain cannot do 2 things at a time. It is only juggling. The attention, the concentration will be there only at one job at a time. But multitasking is it has been glorified, saying super mom with all so many hands, super dad with so many hands, doing so many things at a time. Multitasking drains the energy out of a person. Productivity comes down. So stop multitasking. Journaling is a very good way. The moment we write, because there are so many finger nerves in our fingertips, when we hold a pen, not on the mobile, not on the notes, literally pen and paper, because the hold is very important. It could be any journaling, like did I not do multitasking today, or did I manage my unofficial screen time today? Journaling that, whatever we decide to do, what would happen when we achieve it? Balanced diet for the brain. Reward, dopamine is released, right? Because I did it. We feel good. So small things, make sure that we give balanced diet for our brain. Okay, connect with people, help somebody. Yeah, serotonin is released. Okay, laugh with my friend, dopamine is released. Spend family time, oxytocin is released. So when we know for each activity there is a corresponding neurotransmitter, we'll consciously allocate time. Meditation and exercise, how it helps. Because meditation very simple because you breathe better. The moment we do slow breathing, the brain gets more oxygen and all the muscles in our body relax. When everything is relaxed, the message is all is well. And when all is well, productivity increases. So there is initial, meditation, there is no hard and fast rule that you should not have no thoughts, nothing. Simple. Sit. Set an alarm for 5 minutes or just leave it. However much time you can sit just like that. Concentrate on your breathing or maybe breathe for 50 breaths. Slow inhale, slow exhale. We'll get enough oxygen in the brain. And this has to be experienced. Only then we'll realize how refreshing it is. Starting with 10 breaths in a day, maybe multiple times. And exercise. Exercise releases serotonin. Exercise releases dopamine. So any form of exercise would help us in that. Pre-sleep and early morning gadget-free habit is again very important. When we have this allocation of unofficial screen time, ideally pre-sleep, because pre-sleep decides how we think the next day. The last thought in our mind is what we start the next day. And the early morning gadget, the moment we check that, we never realize the whole day starts like that. And again, if we decide no pre-sleep and no early morning gadget, automatically so many things are managed.